You're listening to Beyond YOLO, a youth podcast series on real-life stories of resilience in Victoria's northeast and New South Wales border region. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands and waters on which we gather, and share these stories and pay our respects to elders, past and present, and encourage everyone to be the champions of our emerging leaders and elders of our future.
There's a certain sense that you get when you fly that is completely different, I think, to anything else that I can get. You can go as high as you want and as far as you want. You could be stressing out about anything. As soon as your wheels leave the ground, it's gone. Hi, my name is Tyson Hubbard. I'm 18 years old, live in North Albury. I'm an Air Force cadet. I love aeroplanes. I love war history. I have cystic fibrosis, also known as CF. I was diagnosed at 6 weeks. At the time, my parents had no idea what CF was. They had already had one healthy child, my sister Kyra, 16 months older than me. They had no reason to suspect that there might be anything wrong with their next child. So unfortunately, caught them a little bit by surprise, I think. It took them till the 6 week mark. I was finally diagnosed from actually the heel prick test. It just so happened that by a lucky dip draw, I happened to get a bad gene from both my mum and my dad.
My name's Chaves. I'm a paediatrician in Albury-Wodonga. Cystic fibrosis is a genetic condition. It's kind of all about mucus. People with cystic fibrosis have a gene that affects the way certain cells produce mucus. For people with cystic fibrosis, they are unable to control the amount of mucus in those organs. And so they have a lot of thick, sticky mucus that affects their lungs, their ability to breathe, and also their digestive system and a whole range of other organs.
I fly model aeroplanes with my dad, and I fly some real aeroplanes whenever I get the chance to.
It's a serious condition that requires them to manage it every day.
I suppose there isn't such thing as a smooth ride when it comes to CF. It also affects the sort of jobs that I can get into. You know, me, with my love of planes and being an Air Force cadet, would have loved to have joined the Air Force, but I couldn't ever pass the medical to be able to get into the Air Force or the Defence Force of any branch.
To manage cystic fibrosis, children and young people and their families need to be part of a big team. So they're looked after by a team of health professionals. Ultimately, though, it's the young person and their family that are the expert in the condition. They're dealing with it on a daily basis. They have their support group of other young people with cystic fibrosis or the wider cystic fibrosis support community that's out there. And it's those people who are the experts in the condition.
I've seen CF kids much, much healthier than myself, but I've also met CF kids that look a lot worse than I do. If you ask my doctors, they'll tell you that I do and that I take a handful of pills a day, at least half an hour of medium to high intensity workouts a day, just to try to keep myself fit. You know, your lung function stays at above a certain level because it's easy to let the lung function drop, but it's really, really hard to get it back. It's definitely going to affect my working life in the way that I have to take, time off every 3 months for tune-ups and taking time off for doctor's appointments. As I was growing up, I spent many weeks in the hospital. I'm still going there, 18 years old now. They haven't kicked me out just yet, but I'm sure they will soon. Probably next year they'll make me go to a bigger kids hospital. It's a bit unfortunate because I have so many doctors and nurses that have known me since I can even remember. At the end of the year, everything's going to change. I will be leaving the Children's Hospital and going to the Alfred. I leave the Air Force Cadets, who I've been with for 4 years. I've finished my study by the end of the year. Next year is going to be a completely new chapter. With CF and growing up with that, it's something that is sort of thrown at you. Like, if you don't just adapt to the circumstances, everything's going to fall apart, So it's all just a big guessing game at this stage. Every day you have to do your physio and you have to take your pills, and you have to do your exercise. But aside from that, I don't have to give CF anything else out of my day.
Big thanks to Tyson Hubbard for sharing his story. This story was developed for the Beyond YOLO Youth Podcast series by writer Kate Rotherham and produced by Alison Plastow and Tony Grace of Out of Line. Special thanks to Dr. Katrina Chaves. Intros and outros were voiced by Forrest Dickinson. Beyond YOLO has been made possible thanks to funding from the Regional Arts Fund in both Victoria and New South Wales. Murray Arts would like to thank their core funding partners. A big thank you also to ABC Goulburn Murray. This is a Murray Arts podcast series. If you enjoyed this podcast, tell your peeps so that they can too. You only live once. Beyond YOLO.